No, Witchy. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, weirdos. How are you today? I am exhausted but rested. It is for the long-awaited coffee. Oy, 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 oy. Yes, the drums are still set up. Probably get rid of them this week so I can have my room back here. Although I have to pull the trigger and decide if I'm gonna do some more recording. So there you go. There we go. Coffee. Let's see. I better put up the old curtain there so we know that it's really morning. Mama. There we go. So if you don't recognize the logo on the side there, if you don't recognize the logo on the side of the drum kit there, it is a Ludwig, 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 as in von Beethoven, as in Bunny Carlos, right? As in so many other famous drummers. I am a drum banger. I don't suspect that what I do is considered playing the drums. Pretending to play the drums, I do. I do pretend. I'm not too shabby at pretending. So there you go. So this shirt today I'm wearing it in honor of next week's festivities. Remember, next week, a week from tonight, we'll be at Pappy and Harriet's for the Mitch Rowland concert. Mitch Rowland is the guitar player for Harry Styles. One week away. Can't wait. This should be fun. The last time we were there was a few months ago with the Big Sandy and the Fly Right Boys. Phenomenal show. Before that, it was about a year ago. We saw Lucas Nelson. Lucas Nelson and The Promise of the Real. That was outdoors at Pappy and Harriet's. There's only room for a couple of hundred people, really, inside the venue. It's just a restaurant bar with a stage. A really small, really intimate place. You're within a couple of feet of the artist you're there to see. It's pretty awesome. If they're going to take a break, they got to go right outside near the smoking area outside there. So, I mean, it's like, hi, how you doing? Everything's real close. It's awesome. And like I said, it's a restaurant. So, and bar. So there's people eating, people having drinks. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. I don't know what to expect as far as a Mitch Rowland audience. I suspect that there's regulars who go to these things just because they go to them all the time. Granted, this is on a Tuesday, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what kind of crowd shows up for I don't know, such young music. Yeah, crazy, wacky, wild, zany stuff. Boy, that just hits you right where you need it, right? Yeah, in the heart. Arg. 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 Oh my God, no way, he just said arg. Is he like a pirate? No. I am not a pirate, although I have played one several times on Halloween. Yeah. So, for any of you who watched the entire show, yesterday's show, episode 5, I want to apologize for my rant. Let me rephrase that. I would like to apologize for the fact that I was cut 10 minutes short on my rant and I didn't get to finish. How's that? I am not sorry for anything that I said. I don't do that here. I don't do sorry. I don't do guilt. I try to only say and do things that I have to be unapologetic for. So I am unapologetically me. That's just the way it is. You know, everybody else goes out there and constantly fucking up and fucking with other people, and they're constantly saying sorry, sorry, sorry. I don't do that. You know, if I'm gonna do something, anything, I'm gonna make damn well sure that it's nothing I have to apologize for. Not that it's like, well, I'm just not gonna apologize. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. No, but it's not like that. It's not like that. How about going out into the world and just trying to be aware of others, be courteous, be kind, and then you don't have to apologize, right? Wake the fuck up when you're out in the world, and then there's no need to walk around covering your ass constantly saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Well, I was told that I was supposed to say I'm sorry. Yeah, well, you were told that it's a fucking excuse then to just do whatever the hell you want. And that's not the way it is. Because most people use that word sorry not as an apology, but as an excuse. You know, I said I was sorry. Gosh, fuck you on. Right? So yeah, I won't get into the same rant that I was on yesterday. But I had a book yesterday. That was my trivia book from 1979. And it seems like it's just basic trivia. Where the hell I put it? I must have chucked it. Oh, it's over there on my turntable. There it is. Next time I get up, I'll grab it. And we'll do a little daily trivia. Maybe when I get up to warm my coffee next. Anybody going to any concerts or anything? Be sure to write in the comments where you're going. On this day or on any day. It doesn't matter if it's talk concerts, right? Mm. Mm. So let's see, what did I do yesterday? Yesterday I got done with the morning show here after about 3 hours. Of course, we were cut short again because of technical difficulties. And I don't know if it's my computer slowing down or YouTube slowing me down or what. I did close up some programs and restart my computer last night so that it would be fresh for this morning. And it seems like I'm a lot less glitchy. So maybe that's the case. I should reboot this thing every day to clear up my RAM. He's talking about his van again, man. Not that RAM. Oh, this is so good. So yeah, after yesterday's show, I hung out with the missus here for a little while in the morning, and then I didn't get the word to go do anything else. So I was going to take the day and go do some recording, and nobody else was up for it, nor was I really. So it was like, let's kite out of the situation. And so I went and worked for an hour, and then came back and had some leftover chili. Chili. And remember, when you make a big pot, be sure to freeze bags of it so you can enjoy it again later. And boy, did I enjoy it yesterday. Biscuits. I made some biscuits. Made some biscuits yesterday when I had leftover chili. I thawed some out yesterday and finished it off, well, the day before, and then finished it off yesterday. And the last biscuit, homemade biscuits, homemade chili. And then, of course, I passed out and slept through dinner. There you go. But my family did not have dinner without me. They just kind of nibbled their way through the night, right? Which is what I did after I woke up. Yeah. Oh, that's right. At about 8:30 last night, we had leftover tacos. Actually, burrito from leftover taco stuff, which was really, really good. We tried a new taco seasoning. Usually I just kind of make my own taco seasonings with chili powder and cayenne and that kind of stuff. So we tried one of those little seasoned packs. It tasted a little mesquite-y, like it was a Texas thing. So it really had a Tex-Mex taste to it. And I'm a Mex-Mex taste guy. If it's Mexican food, I want it to taste like Mexican food. Maybe with a California influence, because then you're just going to get like cilantro, lime, and avocado and stuff added. Whereas if you go like Tex-Mex style, you're going to get a lot of, pungent aromas and spices and stuff and weird flavors. And it has kind of a barbecue feel to it, and barbecued Mexican food, to me, that's just taking a piece of carne asada and chucking it down on some hot coals, roasting the hell out of it. And that's Mexican barbecue to me. Cooking a big whole chicken for hours on the barbecue after it's been marinated for hours. Now that's Mexican barbecue right there. Yeah. So I got a delivery yesterday. I suffer from chronic pain and other physical ailments and stuff. Um, and so I require pain management, but after so long doing the pills and having it just destroy my body, I moved back to the marijuana. And I did medical marijuana for a little while until it became legal recreationally. So I don't have to bother going to get the medical card and going through all of that rigmarole. It would be like having to go see a doctor twice a year to get a prescription renewed for that year. And or going to see a doctor every couple of weeks like I used to have to do to get a bottle of pills. And I don't do that. So now once a week I order a little bit of marijuana from my favorite place to go, Green Pearl Organics down in Desert Hot Springs. And they are a cool place. Like I've said before, I'm a creature of habit, and I don't like to get into changing stuff. So once I find a place that I like, and the people keep up with my requirements, right? Then I'll just stay with the one place, Yeah, boring. Sure, I could shop around. And I could go, there's like a 1,000 dispensaries, right? And I could really easily go to a different place every week and get a major discount every time. And I don't want to do that. I mean, that's, first of all, it's like cheating. It's like, well, I'm going to take advantage of your discount, and you're going to give me a discount in hopes that I'm going to come and be a repeat customer. Well, if I'm not going to be a repeat customer, then, it's kind of lying. It's cheating, What are you talking about, man? It's just a company. Just take advantage of their money and shit. Well, sure, Every time you say, well, it's only, it's only, you're marring your own karma and your own soul, right? Even for the stupidest fucking mundane things, it still stacks up inside, and eventually it'll come back and bite you in the butt. So whether it's with a person or a company, I'm going to try to be as nice and as casual and as honest as I can be. I don't know where the fuck I am right now. I think where I'm at right now is to scrunch up some of this bud here and do some bong hits. And then probably warm my coffee and get some trivia books. Well, I think a little bit of what we got banjo. I really love banjo. Banjo is a sativa, and it's supposed to get me focused and uplifted. And it is a really nice, stinky. Oh yeah, really nice. Let me see. Let's just dump some out here. Take a look at it. Well, there's some big buds there. There's some big buds in there. It's nice for an 8. It's nice. That's nice. So, who out there is my age, right? And in the 80s, when you were a teenager, what kind of bud did you like to buy and smoke, right? I mean, granted, back in the 80s, we didn't have a whole lot of options as far as what kind of strains of weed. Here in Southern California, you either got Northern California skunk weed, which was really pricey, or you got south of the border kilo bricks of compressed weed that was just what we called Mexican red hair, right? And it was just a basic sativa. and which was the northern stuff was usually an indica, and it would be labeled as indica weed or skunk weed or Humboldt. They would call it Humboldt County weed. Um, I used to just call it skunk bud because that's the aroma that it had. It had a really skunky, pungent um, odor to it. Uh, but we also used to get stuff called Colombian, which was way south of the border, and it was uh, a brown weed, and it was usually really dry and shaky and not really buddy, and it wasn't a great buzz. All right, it was like, well, we got some Colombian here. We're out of the good stuff, but we still got some Colombian, right? Whereas if you had some Maui Wowie light, kind of a blonde, greenish blonde weed, and then you were really getting a good buzz on. Um, if it wasn't skunk weed, I think my second favorite, well, my first favorite was Fallbrook Red Hair. Now, Fallbrook Red Hair was a locally grown and sourced marijuana that was grown right there in Fallbrook in the avocado groves, um, and it was really really good smelling, stinky. Um, it was really light. It had a dark forest green um, bud with a lot of red, just covered in red hairs. I can still smell it. I can still taste it. Um, and it just had a really great overall buzz, right? I mean, it wasn't like you're gonna smoke it and then just laugh for hours. Although you probably could, and we would um, smoke Fallbrook Red Hair and just get goofy silly for hours, right? Yeah, good old Fallbrook Red Hair. So we got Fallbrook Red Hair, which was my favorite, and then the skunk weed, which you never got a lot of because it was always um, seasonal. At the end of the summer, you'd get this great influx of skunk weed into the town, into the Lake Elsinore Valley area, and it would come and go and come and go and come and go, and it was never one of those things that was constant. Just like my third favorite marijuana was Thai, Thai weed, Thai stick. It was a really dark brown chocolate Thai, and it was literally tied to a stick. A lot of times, it wasn't so much tied to a stick as it was kind of filleted open like shrimp on a stick, but it was just on its own stem, right? And then a lot of times they would take these little nugs, these little buds, and they would just kind of wrap them around a stick to give the illusion of a big bud, but it was just a little toothpick type stick, a little skewer, just wrapped with weed. Um, and sometimes it was still wrapped when you got it. Most of the time, the wrap was put on when it was wet and taken off after it was dry, and the weed just stuck to the stick. And that was some really good stuff. Um, there was this guy that I worked with um, in 1987 the year I bought my Kramer guitar, um, and I worked at a place called Lakeside Health Resort, and I worked there with I'm going to say his last name because I doubt I'll ever see him again, even though I know he's out there. His name is Michael Smalley, and he was a fantastic guy to work with. Um, Sweetheart of a man. Um, really had been, kind of doing this job since he was in high school, and he had graduated from Elsinore High, um, class of 70 something. So he was like several years older than me, but was a really nice guy to work with. Knew everything there was to know about the Lakeside Health Resort. Um, and yeah, 1987. Good old 1987. So where was I going with 1987? Let me jolt my brain here. So 1987 at Lakeside Health Resort, they kept going through people, employees. I was hired on as a assistant maintenance technician, which meant I went around and I changed light bulbs, I bleached stains on ceilings, regrouted little bits of tile, built storage sheds, cleaned pools and jacuzzis, would wipe down furniture. I mean, pretty much everything guy. In fact, I would often go help out in the kitchen when I wasn't busy doing maintenance stuff. I'd go help out in the kitchen and I'd wash dishes, and then I wound up working in the kitchen a lot. So they would bring in these different guys to help out in different areas. One of the guys they brought in was, I think he was an old classmate of Michael's. He was a black gentleman who was really strong and muscular. And he played a mean acoustic jazz guitar, right? And one day he brought his guitar in, and he and I sat at the health resort, and he taught me some classical gas and some other neat little acoustic things. And that was kind of right at the first couple of years of me really investing myself into fiddling around with the guitar. I'm not going to say that I invested myself into playing the guitar. I invested my time into being with the guitar and experiencing the fun of and the newness of not knowing what the hell is going on with the 6-string thing. Right about the same time, I bought that Kramer guitar. Anyway, this guy who taught me the guitar stuff invited me to his house once because he had some chocolate Thai weed, and lo and behold, he had some great stuff. I think the last experience I had with chocolate Thai was when my friend's father, my friend Steve's father, Mike, took us on a motorcycle trip. Once or twice a year, he would take his motorcycle. Mike would take his motorcycle and he'd just go for a drive. And this year, 1986, 80, I believe it was 87, 88, he took me and Steve. And Steve had a big, giant 1100 Suzuki that he had been handed down from his father. And I wasn't a motorcycle driver. So I was passenger on the back of Steve's bike, where I was seen a lot around Lake Elsinore, always on the back of Steve's bike. Steve was really short, and he was driving this big giant motorcycle with the fairing and the, just huge. He could barely. He'd have to be on his tippy toes to hold this motorcycle up, unless I was on it. And then with me on the back, I would just drop my legs, and I'd be like double kickstand. I borrowed a pair of leather pants with the name Mick across the back, because it was his older brother Mick's pants from his motorcycle racing days. And I wore my leather jacket. And we went up the coast all the way to Oregon, and right inside the border of Oregon, and then over to Medford, where Mike's sister-in-law, his brother's widow, still lived. So we visited there. It was neat because all the way along the way, we would stop at conservation camps and forestry department prisons, right? Um, Mike was a California corrections officer, so he was like a prison guard, but he was a prison guard for like trustees, and he was at women's prison and men's prisons, and so he was like a lifer. After the Navy, he got into corrections and spent a lot of time as a corrections officer. Um, and um, Doing our trip up Northern California into Oregon and then back down. Um, yeah, time to warm that up. We stopped at no less than like 4, maybe a half dozen prisons along the way. Um, was it Fort Ord in California? I think was one of them. I remember that on the way up, we stayed at uh, our first night. We stayed at Lime Kiln Beach, and that's Northern California below San Francisco. And it's right on the coast, and there's this bridge that stretches out over this valley that comes down out of the mountains and then opens up onto the beach, right? And so before you cross over this bridge, you take this little side road down into this valley, and then there's a campground, and then back up in the hills, up in the forest, big giant pine redwood forest. There were this natural water tributary, a creek or a river or whatever, but it would come down out of the mountains and then open up onto the beach. And if you walk this trail back up into along this stream, this creek, you can go up above the falls, and then there's this big giant pool above the falls where very secluded, didn't look like anybody was going there. And there was like mist and lots of green and the light coming through the trees, and it was like being in some kind of like book, some kind of fairy tale world, like something out of a scene from Willow, right, or The Hobbit. And so, this being our first night, we had plenty of weed, even though it took us, a whole day to scrounge up the weed to leave town with. And it was literally, I had a little silver cigarette box, and inside that little silver cigarette box was a little tiny wooden cookie pipe and an 8 bud of chocolate Thai, and that was it for the whole trip. So of course, the first night up in Lime Kiln Beach, we snuck off up to the forest primeval to have a little bit of bud. All right, let me warm up this coffee, and then I'll get back to my story here. Yeah, totally, for sure. My God, no way. All right, there's my little books, my little things. All right, no wedgie. Ah, there we go. Okay. So it's 1987, 88. It might be 1986. All right, so it's about 1986 to 1988. It's right in there somewhere. And Steve and myself and his father Mike are on motorcycles. I'm a passenger, and we're going to Northern California into Oregon and then back down, right? And the first night we stayed at Lime Kiln Beach, way, way, way south of San Francisco, about halfway to San Francisco. Anybody been there? Chime in. Talk to me about it. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since I've done a bong hit. Oh, and that's some good stuff. Banjo. Mommy, that man, he's smoking again. Why is he doing that to himself? Mommy. Don't worry, honey. Some people just have like to do bad things to themselves. Mommy, he keeps putting that in his body. I know, you people in the future, in the far out future, thinking, wow, they still smoked even though they knew it was bad. Doesn't he know what's in that crap? Oh yeah, unfortunately I do. Carcinogens. So, first night, going to Northern California, we stayed at Lime Kiln Beach. We are there one day. We get there in the evening, early in the evening, early enough that we can go out, hike up into the hills, get loaded, come back, have some dinner, and then hike down to the beach, up onto the big cliffs and round eroded things that are piled up around the little beach, because there's just this little solitary beach, right? And it's got a little creek that comes down and runs right through the middle of it, but it's just this big sandy beach that's all to itself. Rocks and cliffs all up around it. So we climb up this one on the south side, and we climb out to the top, but you have to climb down and then out and then up again to get to another big lump that's out there. And we're feeling adventurous. And so we risk going out and climbing out on this thing, because it's a sheer drop down 30, 50, 100 feet some places to the beach or to the water, right? And so we're way, way up there, and we're tucked into a little cleft, and we're going to take a couple of hits because we're secluded away from Mike and everybody else in the wind. So we're up there, and we look down, and there's this girl way down on the beach, hundreds of feet down below us, and then up the beach, hundreds of feet. So she's really small, but really big. She's writing in the sand with a big stick, right? She's writing Mike Beach, right? And I'm thinking, why is she naming my beach? Why is she saying this is my beach, right? And so we're hanging out up there for a little while, and we decide to get back down to the beach. And we get back down there, and she's still there, sitting there amid this big scroll, Mike Beach in the sand. And so I'm feeling my oats, and I go up and introduce myself and say, hey, I'm just kind of curious, my name's Mike, and I'm just kind of curious as to why you named the beach for me. And she laughed and chuckled. She said, oh, no, that's funny. My boyfriend's name is Mike Beach, right? I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So we talked to her for a few minutes, and then we took ourselves back up to camp and I think we had hot dogs and veg all or something. I mean, it was camping with Mike was such a throwback experience, because everything he did the way he learned it when he was young, or back after he got out of the Navy. So we were doing stuff the old way always, and that was it was so much fun for me, because I was used to a different kind of camping. I was used to a camping out of necessity. We didn't have any choice. We didn't have a house, so most of the time when I was camping as a kid, it was the way of life, right? And at 15, I left home and was bouncing around Lake Elsinore, living on couches and living with other people's families and stuff. And at the time, I was living with Steve and his family, which I had done, several times throughout my teen years. And pardon me. It just so happened that at the time, I was there, and let's go on vacation, and Mike was such a unique, well, maybe for me, he was unique because I didn't know a whole lot of people like Mike. He didn't like me so much because I was a hippie, metalhead, punk, juvenile. I epitomized everything that he disliked about my generation, right? Long hair, ratty clothes, always high, always laid back. But I was always ready for anything with Mike. If he said, "Hey, I need help doing this," I was right there. I was ready to, to not just to help him, but to learn from somebody else about the world and about life. And I got a lot of that from Mike. He didn't like me, but he really struggled to, but he went out of his way to accept me. He really struggled to accept me, but he went out of his way to, if not accept me, just tolerate me. And I have always been kind of a voyeur when it comes to people, and very seldom will I interact with people on a regular basis and get to know somebody. It's unfortunate that a lot of the times we're just forced together with people because of work and school and all these other things that require us to interact with people that we wouldn't normally. And Mike was one of those guys that I wouldn't normally interact with because he was just so straight and rigid and strict and old school. At the same time, it was so fun to learn how things were done the way he learned them. The guy was phenomenal. He was really handy with tools and motorcycles, especially motorcycles. He built a few of his own motorcycle trailers from scratch, which was really awesome. In fact, I think the reason we went on this motorcycle trip was so that he could beta test his latest trailer invention. And it was a really nice open up, fold out trailer, had room in there to pack all kitchen stuff and food and supplies. And so he would sleep in that, and Steve and I would sleep in a tent. But it was neat to hang out with Mike, even without Steve around, and especially without Steve around, because then there wasn't that, he wasn't trying to do things to make his son feel like he wasn't hurting his friend, and I, didn't have to, be beholden to my friend's feelings, interacting with his father. So we could just be one-on-one. We could just be ourselves. We could be honest. And that was really cool. I don't think he ever really liked me. And I can honestly say that I never hated him. But I liked Mike. I remember one Thanksgiving, we were out at Butterfield Country in Anza, Awanga area, and I stepped into his motorhome, and it was a couple of mothers and him and a few other people and stuff, and I stepped in his motorhome, and he grabbed my earring and wanted to yank my earring out. How dare I step into his motorhome wearing an earring, right? You damn faggot, get out of here. Yeah. So, of course, the mothers stood up for me. And, we had words, had he pursued it further, we could have gone to blows. I mean, at that point, I was pretty rebellious, and I probably wouldn't have held back by pushing and shoving an old guy for pushing and shoving on me. Right? Respect is earned. It's not aged into, right? You don't get respect because you're of a certain age or a certain caliber of person. No, you need to earn the respect of those around you, even if they're kids. I've got to earn the respect of my peers, vice versa, man. You gotta, and that's the way I was back then, but anyway, so this night we stay off at Limekiln Beach, and that was fun. And then the next night we drive up to just on the other side of the San Francisco Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge. And there, actually, it was before there, we went to a place that he had initially wanted to stay, was a hostel. Everybody knows what a hostel is, right? You've seen the horror movie. Well, it's not like that. So he set up that we were going to drive to this hostel south of San Francisco, and we were going to stay there, right? And there was this great place out on a point with a lighthouse, and it was really, really, really neat place. Unfortunately, they were full, right? Or they didn't. It was bicycles only, I think, is what it was. And they didn't accept motorcycles, even though we were kind of similar. But it was a bicycle hostel only. So we didn't stay there. We had to go further on over the Golden Gate Bridge to the military base. If you go over the bridge and then you go down and then you go under through a tunnel and then out, there's this point out there. If you remember the movie Presidio with Sean Connery and Mark Harmon and Meg Ryan, then about the same period too, then you know that there's this huge military base out there on the point north of the Golden Gate Bridge and east out on the coast, right? Well, there's this old academy there, and this old academy had a couple of buildings that weren't in use, so they were used as a hostel, right? And a hostel is just a regular person, civilian motel, but you live in a dormitory style setting, which means multiple beds in a room, and you get a job card which allows you to stay for cheap. So I think we stayed for $5 or $6 each, and then Steve and I pulled job cards, and one of us had to empty trash and one of us had to sweep or something in the kitchen and dining hall, and that was it. And so we did that, and then we were out walking around the Presidio to find a spot to sit and get high. And that was like our goal, wherever we went, was to find a spot that we could sneak a couple of hits, right? After being on these motorcycles for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And we both smoked cigarettes at the time, as did Mike. So it was easy to disguise taking a hit off a cigarette with, take a hit off a pipe and then, let the smoke out with some cigarette. A smoke screen is what we call it. I think the best use we had of a smoke screen back when I was a kid was at about the same time period where a bunch of us 80s punks went to Disneyland in Southern California. And it was pre-downtown, pre-California Adventure. It was just old-style Disneyland. I think it was post-ticket books, but it was like right after ticket books. And we walked down the center of Tomorrowland under the tram and people mover and stuff. So we're walking down, and I think that was the best use of smoke screen that we ever did. It was okay to smoke cigarettes back then. Walking around Disneyland, there were clouds of cigarette smoke everywhere, so it was okay to smoke cigarettes. So what we did was everybody would get a cigarette, right, except for one person, and one person would be taking a hit off of a joint, and everybody else would release this cloud of cigarette smoke, and then they would swap with one person, and they would take that cigarette, and the other person would take the joint, and they'd take a couple of hits, and we'd cloud the area. And we just walked up and down Tomorrowland, and just got extremely loaded, right? In plain sight of everybody, because we were smoking cigarettes. Once they turned it into smoking areas only, we just did the same thing in a smoking area. You know, okay, give me a smoke screen, I'm going to get loaded, right? And of course, by then, only a few of us were still getting high. Hello. So our second day on our trip to Oregon with Steve and Mike, we're staying at a hostel in just outside of San Francisco on the Presidio, and that was a pretty neat night. We cooked in the kitchen there, using all the utensils that were there, cleaned up, washed everything, put everything away, ate dinner there. We had, I think Steve and I were sleeping in one room on bunk bed with a couple of other people, and Mike was in another room with, if I'm remembering correctly. I wish I could talk to Steve about this. I miss you, Steve. Yeah, I think we got up and we had breakfast there, packed everything on the motorcycles, and took off again, and went north. I don't remember. Okay, we went north and we stayed in a redwood forest campground, and it was outside Fort. I'm going to say Fort Ord, California. Where's my books? Where's my books? Yeah. So anyway, we go north, and in that area there is a conservation camp that we go and we get a tour, and it's a fun romp through I think that was the first prison that we went to. And he did this, he stopped off at the different prisons so that he could write this off. This whole trip was a write-off for him, right? He didn't have to pay the taxes on this I guess is the way it works, or whatever. But however they say, well, it's a write-off. That's what this was for him, because he didn't have to pay for the trip. I mean, it was like, I believe he just turned in receipts and got reimbursed for much of it, because he was driving around to not inspect, but to learn, right? Because he was like an officer. He'd been there, like he was a 20-year man, so he was like an important guy. And if anybody's watching who knows who I'm talking about, well, talk to me. Let's talk more about it. I know Mick's out there somewhere. I know David's out there somewhere. I know Angel and Connie and Steve are still out there somewhere, you know. So hello, hit me up. Talk about Mike and his work and his trips, because he was a big influence in my life, you know. He and his family kept me off the streets, you know. I kept going to school because of Steve's family, Chris's family, Andy's family, Brett's family. I mean, if it wasn't for these people, yeah, I would have been a gutter snipe. I would have been, you know, probably dead or in prison, or, you know, homeless and toothless somewhere. I'm not far from that now, but so yeah, we stay up in Northern California. You know, we're going through the redwood forests and stuff, and we go through the big tree with the tunnel through. I wish we had taken a camera with us for that trip. One of those disposables would have been nice. I'm sure Mike had a camera at some point, took pictures. But yeah, so we stayed in this really, forested area in the middle of nowhere, because it was near the conservation camp. So we were always staying off in these weird little places. Pardon me. So Steve and I didn't have a lot of opportunities to go out and get loaded. Being on a trip with Mike, who was very suspicious and strict and stern, and he would have turned us around and gone straight home had he found out, or some other form of corporal punishment would have been instituted. And I'm going to say that he probably knew that we were screwing around, smoking weed or doing something. I mean, he probably knew. He wasn't an idiot. I mean, he was a prison guard for cripe's sakes, right? So he probably understood what was happening. But he was a really cool, strict old guy. And so third night north, somewhere between San Francisco and Oregon, right? And then the fourth night, we're just over the border in Oregon, on the west side of Oregon coming up. So I remember going through canyon with a lot of high sheer rock and waterfalls and river and a lot of trees. I remember a lot of trees, and I remember the similar geography from when we had gone up there 10 years before and gotten dropped off by my parents at my grandfather's house, who lived right in the same area. In fact, the day after we stayed the night there in this really nice campground with a lake and mountains everywhere and trees, and that was a neat place to hang out and get loaded. And night came real quick because we got there late, and it was like just trees and mountains and cliffs and stuff around us. So of course we lost the sun real quick. Of course, met people our age, as we did every night. We'd go somewhere. We'd usually meet someone our own age, at least every other night, and would hang out at somebody else's camp and get invited to do stuff. And then the next day, I found that we were in the same area as where my grandfather lived, right? And was living at the time. And it was like, hey, would it be okay if I called my grandfather and maybe see if we could come by and visit, And I'm just a young teenage punk, so I don't really think in my head, well, maybe this old fart who probably doesn't even consider me part of the family, right? Because I'm the oddball. Of the oddball of the oddballs, the black sheep of the black sheep, right? So, I mean, I didn't even think that, well, these people probably don't even want to see me, right? And so I look in the phone book, because that's what you did back then. And we went to a payphone, and I looked through a phone book and found Mondre, and found that they were in La Tuna Canyon, I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly from forever ago. But it was like, okay, well, that's them, and I honestly don't remember what happened after that. I think there was no one home. I got a machine. I think that was probably it. I got an answering machine. Bob's at work, and I'm out doing something, and it was, Bob and Gloria. And I think I just left a message and said, hey, this is Michael. I'm passing through town, thought I'd say hi. And basically we were just going to, drive by and say hi, for a couple of minutes. And I didn't get to do that. But like I said, You know, they were probably like, oh, it was that one. You know, it was that one. Well, maybe if it had been, one of the other ones, yeah, maybe. But that one, nah. I'm glad we let the machine get it. Um, so we went over from coming up one side of into Oregon. We shot over past where my grandfather lived in Medford or around Medford, and then down into just below Medford, where Mike's sister-in-law, um, his brother's widow, lived. And we went and we saw pictures of young Mike and his brother and Navy pictures, and when they were young, and heard a couple of stories, and talked to her for a little while, and then we were back on the bikes, and we stayed the night just south of the Oregon California border in Wairika, and that was another weird place. This night we stayed in a motel. We actually got a motel because it was like halfway through the trip, and it was time to have showers and do laundry, and sleep in a bed. And so like that was part of his plan, was to do, okay, we'll do this stretch of the trip, and then we'll get a room and we'll have a good night's rest, and then we'll do the last couple of nights, 2 or 3 nights going down, right? So it's like, okay, that's cool. So we got a room, and we did just that, had laundry, had dinner. Steve and I went out the motel, walked down south, down the highway. The highway ran right through the center of town. There was no freeway, it was just a highway. So it was 4 lanes buzzing through the center of town. And then we jumped over the highway, across the street, and walked up the other side so we could see the hotel and the bikes and make sure that he hadn't gone anywhere. And so we kind of walked slow up the street and got high, looking for cops, because the last thing you want to do is get busted in a weird place, and have to be rescued by Mike, even though he would have been able to get us off. We didn't want that. So we did our few hits and smoked a cigarette, and then went back to the room, passed out. The next day we drove south. Actually, I believe from there we drove southwest, down to another conservation camp prison, just right in the forest, just deep in the forest, and got a tour there. And there was a lot of woodworking going on. There was a whole mill and woodworking facility. They did a lot of those old slab tables that were just oozed with the what do you put on them? Lacquer. They were just lacquered up so heavy, right? And buffed and polished, and they were just making furniture, and they would make furniture and sell it to keep the prison alive, prison for profit. So we got to meet the guards and the prisoners and the tour, and it was really, really, weird. Being in your late teens and being driven around to prisons, and I never thought of it like, oh, I never want to go to prison, or I never want to, it never dawned on me one way or the other. I was just touring a different way of life. Right. Not that I thought that I'd ever get there, or I need to stay away from trouble so I don't wind up here. It was never like that to me. It never felt like that. It was just, this is what these people do. This is where these people live. This is how they live. This is, and that was really neat, to say the least, to see all of this different shit going on. Because you always hear about prisons and prison life and this wasn't that. But it was similar to that. And I enjoyed the hell out of the trip, because as a young guy, I was used to moving around and traveling, and we hadn't done it in a while. And now I'm doing it with a purpose. The last time we traveled with a purpose was the Wounded Knee thing. And now I'm out traveling around again with a purpose, with other people, you know. So after staying the night in Wairika and then shooting out to this prison, we went down the highway around the Mount Shasta area, went through there, and then we went east up over the Lassen Peak, the Lassen Mountain. Lassen Mountain is a dormant volcano. Not completely dormant because there's a lot of gases and geothermal stuff going on there. So, you know, it's back then, and maybe it probably still is then, still is now. It's still kind of an active place. There were places, signs put up where you could not walk because beyond that you run the risk of suffocation, because gases will come up and just suck the oxygen right out of the air, and then you're dead, right? I found a lot of that. I found that there was a lot of that still in Mammoth in the 90s when I lived in Mammoth. So we stayed the night in right up on the top of the volcano. There's a campground, and so we stayed on the top of Lassen. And of course, Steve and I helped set up camp. And while the old guy was getting dinner together, you know, or after dinner, we would take a walk. And this place was like, most of the trees were non-existent. There were very few trees in this campground area, and a lot of fallen trees. So there wasn't a lot to make you secluded enough where you could feel comfortable, you know, sitting down and getting high. So we really had to work at finding a place to go get loaded, man. You know, a couple Southern California boys up in Northern California. It would have been neat if we'd have found some Northern California weed while we were up there, but we never did. And the neat thing about that is we were walking around and we came upon a campground, a campsite with a few kids and some adults. And the kids were musicians, right? And they were young. They were really young. They were younger than us. We were in our late teens, and they were in their preteens and early teens, right? So the oldest boy had this guitar, and it looked huge on him. It was just a regular guitar, but it looked huge on him because he was, you know, kind of young. And I remember that they played us a song. They played House of the Rising Sun, right? And they all played it and sang, and it was one of those things that I haven't thought about in decades, right? And it was like one of those little micro treats that we had throughout the whole trip, my whole adventure with Lake Elsinore, and staying with different families and trying to survive was just a whole series of little micro events that kind of weaved my whole wacky world together, right? And doing this trip and the little things that would happen along the way, you know, were just such an adventure. And having this little mini concert from these kids, you know, and I think they played some other stuff, but it was that, you know, House of the Rising Sun that just blew us away. And I think after that, Steve and I were really pumped up to play music more when we got home. We did some recording. I've got a couple of tapes still of us hanging out and jamming and doing weird shit. Yeah, those were the days, right? Those were the days. So we spent that night up in Lassen, and had one of those great camping meals that Mike was famous for. You know, got up the next day and drove down through Susanville, and went south from there, and through Reno and Carson, and all the way down through through areas that I wouldn't get back up to for another 20 years. Gardnerville and Walker. You know, um, yeah, all the way down through Bridgeport, uh, past June Lake, past Mammoth, and then we got just past Mammoth, and we got to Crowley Lake, right? And Crowley Lake is kind of a weird place. It's the highway goes south, and then on the west side was this mountain community, and then on the east side was this funky lake, this weird little odd shaped lake, um, with a weird unusual history. And then above that, further to the east, was the White Mountains, with the little pinyon pines, the crooked, old, weird, strange looking pine trees. Um, and then that place wouldn't mean anything to me until I came back, to hang out with the guys in Mammoth, 8 years later. Um, but we stayed in Crowley Lake at a campground. And at this point, this would be our last night of the trip. And we were pretty much out of weed. We had smoked the last of the weed the night before. And so we were pretty much done with weed. And of course, guys will do anything, when they're young and they're out of weed and they're impatient for a buzz, and there was no alcohol to be found, of course, because we were with Mr. Good Guy, Mr. Strict. So we weren't about to be able to get a beer or something. I don't know. I think we cleaned the pipe and smoked some crap out of the pipe that we dug up, and went out and walked around and did that, and then came back. And by this time, conversation was coming and going real easily with Mike, which probably made Steve think, what the hell's going on? Why is he able to get along with this old crusty guy so easily now? And it's because we found common ground. Mike was, a lot older than us, but at the same time, I had spent a lot of time as a kid talking with adults more than kids, because I just couldn't get along with kids on a kid level. So I spent a lot of time talking with adults, and because my father was into old stuff back in the 70s, I knew a lot about World War I and World War II and the Korean War, and I knew a lot about the home front during all of these things, with the radio programs and the movies, and the different celebrities and stuff at the time, and the different cars and so I knew a lot about his era, which helped us to kind of form a relationship. And this night, our last night, we were talking about, let's do something, let's listen to the radio, and he's like, I don't like listening to the radio. I don't want to listen to your kind of crap. And I said, well, my kind of crap is your kind of crap. And he said, what? And he was really like, how dare you say that, that I would listen to anything that you would listen to, right? And I said, well, don't you like Jack Benny? And he's like, huh? Don't you remember the Jack Benny Fred Allen feud? And he's like, what? And I said, yeah. I said, well, one of my favorite shows is The Shadow. And he's like, what? And we started talking about The Shadow. And neither one of us could remember the name of the character, the Clark Kent character, of The Shadow, the Clark Kent persona, who was his real life persona? And neither one of us could come up with it. And so I said, okay, well, let's just, we'll table that because it'll pop into my head later. And so we continued talking about old time radio. And then I said, well, I think that we might be close enough now that it's dark, we might be able to pick up some of the KNX 1070, or maybe someone else is syndicating the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, right? And he's like, what? And I said, yeah, they have the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, once a week, and it's on tonight. If you want to listen to it, let's try to pick it up. And so we put on the radio, and we could just hear it coming in, kind of fading in and fading out over the AM dial. And just before, I'm gonna have to let dogs out. Just before we went to sleep that night, I shot up in bed and said, Lamont Cranston. And he's like, what? And I'm the Shadow. That's his alter ego is Lamont Cranston. And we laughed. But that's when Mike finally figured out that it was okay to have a relationship, a one-on-one relationship with me, even though I was me. Let me go check some dogs here. Be right back. Okay. Of course, I'm sure they'll get me up in another minute to open up one door and let them through another. But until then, we're did the big faced dog just go boof to come out of Natalie's room? Yeah. So it's our last night on this trip on the motorcycles. And I've just screamed out Lamont Cranston in the middle of the night. And the next day is our last day down to get into Elsinore and get home and go hang out at Rich and Charlotte's house and come down from this experience, right? Come back to Earth. So we, in the morning, we leave, we get down, we get all the way down to Johannesburg, right? For a late lunch, I believe. And we decide, okay, we're just going to have a late lunch here, and then we're just going to push through all the way down. And normally we would just stop off somewhere, pull over, make sandwiches, hang out for 20 or 30 minutes, use a bathroom or something, and then get back on the road. And so when it gets toward the end of the trip, the food has kind of run out, and you're getting kind of burned out on, ham and cheese sandwiches or whatever. So we stop off in Johannesburg, and right on the 395, and we're just off the 395 in this little mining community. And there's this old-timey general store, saloon, dime store place with a deli, an old school deli. So we go in and we order some sandwiches and big ice cold drinks, because now we're getting to the high desert and it's starting to get pretty toasty. So we have sit there at the counter and have lunch, and then down our drinks and hit the road. And I remember that after we left, we're driving down through the desert, and I started to get the chills. It was really, really hot, and I started to get the chills. Of course, we're driving on motorcycles, so the wind is hitting me, but the wind is hot. And Steve is like, "What do you mean you're cold? It's freaking hot." Oh man, I'm fucking freezing to death, man. You got to pull over. I got to do something. So we speed up and we get Steve's dad, Mike, to pull over. And as it turns out, I was having a heat stroke from being in the helmet and all the black leather in the high desert. And so we pulled over for a little while in the shade, and I, stripped all this crap off and got wet and cooled off, and we chilled out for a little while. And then we decided, let's just push through and get the hell home. I just want to get back so that we can, first of all, get loaded, smoke some marijuana, and then get over to, some friend's house and hang out and detox from the road. I'm going to take one of these now. Oh, thank you, GPO, for the delivery. And the Coastal Sun makes all the difference in the world when it comes to managing pain in the mornings, which is where I have most of my pain. By the middle of the day, I'm pretty well detached from the pain. The pain's still there, but I'm kind of loaded, and I don't really give a fuck too much about it anymore. On the days that I got to work, I can't detach myself from the pain too much because I got to work. Maybe I have to drive, so it's like, all right, I got to get high later. More coffee than weed went in those situations. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Thank you, Coastal Sun and GPO, Green Pearl Organics. I remember by the time we got to like Kramer Junction, 395 and the 51 or something, some weird odd 40. Maybe it was the 40. But that was pretty far down. And then we're only a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, I think probably 3 hours outside of Elsinore by then. And by then, Kramer Junction. But back then there was nothing out there. The Astro Burger, I believe we went to the Astro Burger, and I think I had a grilled cheese or something, but we had some snacks at the Astro Burger and cooled off again because, so we would do these short, fast little jaunts and then pull off and at one point it was like, all right, we're out of the high desert. It's cool enough. It's late enough. It's cool enough. Let's just get the fuck home. And of course we got home and unloaded our shit, changed clothes. And maybe we didn't even change. Steve and I were like, all right, we're out here. And we bailed and went right to Four Corners, went right over and hung out with our friend Tracy and her family and just got ripped. And it was fantastic. It was like, we're home. Yeah, those were the good old days. And I'm sure people now who were involved in those experiences have moved on from that lifestyle. But I sure hope that you can look back fondly at those memories rather than, oh, I wish I'd never done the things that I did. We all do what we do, and we just have to accept the fact that, shit happens, and we did what we did, and try not to beat yourself up over any one thing, or a group of things. I mean, that's life, I feel bad and for some of the things that I did back then, and I feel that it's unfortunate that some people were involved in bad things, but that happens. Do we learn from any of that? I would hope so. Mm-hmm. I would like to think that I am a better person because of all of those experiences, not a lesser person. Not a bad person. Am I sorry for the things that I did that affected other people? Oh, hell yes, I'm sorry. That I had to learn those lessons at the expense of others, or others had to learn lessons, at my expense. But that's the way it is. It's fucked up, but that's the way it is. You just have to learn and then hopefully move on to a greater degree and not a lesser. Sure, I still get high. Does it affect anyone else but me? No. Am I going to drive today? No. It's just who I am. It'd be the same thing if I was going to have a beer. Am I going to drive? Am I going to have to be responsible for anything? No. Then sure, I'll have a beer, or I'll spend the morning getting high and then take a nap and then get up and deal with shit if I got to go out. And I may go out this evening for a drive, but that'll be much later after I've become more human and then acclimatized to my brain activity for the day. But yeah, I remember getting home on that day from that, and just being so happy to get over to Rich and Charlotte's to feel normal again. Because like I said, when I first met these people, they made me feel normal again. It hadn't been since the early 70s, back when my first memories had formed, when I was immersed in Sierra Madre Canyon and the counterculture and hippies and all of that, and it wasn't until I found Tracy and her family that I found people who were more like me than anyone else I had found, including my best friends at the time. So yeah, so it was great to be home in Elsinore, but doubly so to be over at their house, because I couldn't go to my house, right? I wasn't I didn't feel like I was welcome, first of all. And there didn't feel like, for most of the 80s, there just didn't feel like there was any, familial sense at home. If I was at home or with my family, I felt that I was tolerated. You know, when I would see my family members out and I would run into them in Elsinore, sure, my father would, hey, how you doing? You're okay. You need any money? This, that, or the other. But other than that, I mean, they weren't saying, you got to come home. You got to, um, we want you to be with us and that kind of shit. They didn't, there was nothing there. They knew there was nothing there. They had made it quite obvious, through their actions and inactions, that I was separate from the whole of the family. I was a different thing entirely. And so even then I got the point. But even as a little kid, I got the point that, I'm not really a part of the plan. So yeah, when I would, be in Elsinore and would see family, whether it be a sibling or a parent, it would be like, seeing an acquaintance. Yeah, that's pretty harsh, but gosh, if I'm going to be honest, that's the way it felt. Because they all thought that they knew who I was, but all they knew was what they knew about me from their point of view, and they never decided or tried to learn other. That was it. That's all they cared to know about me, what they knew, what they thought they knew. That was it. So, I got that. I got that at an early age. But I got, even though I was completely different than my friends and their families, I got more respect from them. Even though I was, much like I am now, a long-haired, freaky little guy. I talked different back then. I acted different than everybody else. I was different. I'm still the weird guy. Now I'm just crazy and old and bearded. Yeah, what a world! What a world! But that trip at the last, somewhere in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. That was not our only trip. I can't remember which trip came first, honestly, but we did a trip in Mike's Subaru Bratt. It was a great little red burgundy Subaru Bratt with the chairs in the back, with the little handles, and the seat belts. Oh, boy, that was a dangerous way to travel, I'm telling you. I mean, not only was it in the back of a pickup truck, which is a horrible way to travel, especially on the freeway at high speeds, but my goodness, we did. And Steve and I in the back of this Brat with Mike driving, and his passenger seat, he had this makeshift desk thing that he handmade in the Brat so that he could have maps and stuff set up. And so he had his whole little passenger side set up like a little office, right? With a cooler for his snacks and his maps and lights. And this is pre-GPS and pre-phones and stuff. So it was, very old school, very cool though. And Steve and I in the back of this Brad, we had more weed this time, I believe, and we were only going to be out 3 or 4 days because we were just going up to Thomas A. Edison Lake. So it was like drive and then stay somewhere and then and they were short drives. So we drive, stay somewhere, and then drive out to Thomas Edison Lake, stay for a night or two, and then drive. Then we came back to Pismo Beach, stayed a night there, and then came back. I don't remember where Thomas A. Edison Lake in this Sierra Nevada mountain range, somewhere in central California, I believe, not northern, but central. I'm going to say that's where we were. So we went up like through Visalia or something, that area, and then into Thomas A. Edison Lake, and then came down along the coast and stayed at Pismo Beach. Now, Pismo Beach is famous for motorcycle and dune buggies and that kind of stuff. And we were in a Brat. We didn't have motorcycles, but it was kind of an off-road vehicle, so we got away with it. We didn't look too out of place, and I remember meeting a couple of girls and going out and hanging out on the dunes in the evening and getting high. And that's what most of our trips were, we'd go someplace and then go out and find a spot to make some memories and to kill some brain cells at the same time. To be a kid. But, fuck it, I still do the same goddamn thing now, right? Go to a show or something and get loaded and make some memories and kill some brain cells. Because if you're saving yourself for some kind of divine inevitability, right? Like, the better I am to myself and to my body, the holy temple will be cleaner. It's like, that's great, and more power to you. And for those people who want to live, that golden path or whatever you want, go for it. If that's what gets you off, do it. For me, I'm going to do the Jerry Garcia, and I am going to try to enjoy my life to the best of my ability, because my emotions and my memories are ultimately what makes me, right? And so if I'm going to enjoy this life that I have, I'm going to do it on my terms, so long as it doesn't adversely affect others, right? And that's, I think, the main thing that I've learned through the mistakes of my past, is to enjoy yourself, but not at the expense of others. That's it. Don't get your rocks off beating somebody's face in or raping somebody. That's not the way to go, right? I think the way to go is to make sure that you're honest and open and true to yourself, but at the same time, be kind and courteous. Be thoughtful. Right? Sure. and being thoughtful, I think I'm gonna take another hit. So, people, let's do a word of the day. All right. We'll go right back to you, and we'll pull a U word out of here off of this U page. Let's just try to find a weird U word. Uns. There's lots of uns here. Okay, umbrage. There we go. UMBRAGE, umbrage. It says to see shade, synonym. And we want to see foliage or offense. Let's see, annoyance, irking, vexation, exasperation, irritation, provoking, fury, ire, rage, wrath, Um, wow. Umbrage. And then it's got another one here that says again, see shade and anger. Wow. So, umbrage, people. Look up the word, learn it, know it, love it, live it. Umbrage. And let's go and see if we can't find some. Let's see. Why don't I take it and write it in my notes, okay? Because, you know, umbrage. Umbrage. There you go. That's totally cool. I like this little book. I keep track of what I'm fucking doing because I can't, trust my head to remember shit anymore. I'll remember shit vividly like this trip from, 35, 40 freaking years ago, right? But try to remember what I had for breakfast. Well, I remember because I have the same thing. That's easy. But you know what I'm saying. Let's see. What episode is this, people? Do we know? Oh, this is, 6. Episode 6. Season 2. And umbrage is the word of the day. Umbrage. Did you umbrage? No, not a chance. So it's February 20th, 2024, and it is a Tuesday. So here on my trivia book, does anybody recall who the man in black was? Well, I'll tell you. It was the host of a radio program, Suspense, and Joe Kearns played the man in black. Now, we're going to have to listen to some Suspense tomorrow because, well, of course, it'll be topical. And on the same page here, we have the Maltese Falcon. It was 16th century gift given to King Charles V of Spain by the Knights Templars of Malta. King Charles never received the gift. Now, the 1941 movie, The Maltese Falcon, is based on this. Now, is that true? The story of the Maltese Falcon? I don't know. Let's find out about the Maltese Falcon. Maltese Falcon. Now, I've seen the movie with Humphrey Bogart, Sidney Greenstreet, Mary Astor, I believe. It's got a what's that guy's name? The guy with the eyes. Master, I tell you, Master. Of course, I don't think he ever said that. Who was that guy? Anyway, Maltese Falcon, great movie from what did they say, 1941. One of Humphrey Bogart's best film noir detective movies. So yeah, the Maltese Falcon. Let's see if the Maltese Falcon and King Charles and all that stuff is all actually happening and related. Then we might find the Maltese Falcon in this encyclopedia here, right? So let's go to MAL and see if we can find Maltese and Malta. Oh, look at that. Roddy McDowell getting makeup on for Planet of the Apes. Mala. So Maltese. Malawi. Lake Malaya, Malaysia. We're still MALA. We need MALT. Get Malcolm. Mal. Molly. Malmo. Malro. Malta. Here we go. Malta. And there is Maltese Cat. There is Knights of Malta, Jerusalem, and Maltese is a dog. We've got a Maltese and a Maltese cat. Let's see. Doesn't say anything here about a falcon. King doesn't say anything about a gift. There we go, Malta back here. Land of natural resources. Wow, well this 19 looks like a 1970s or 80s photograph of Malta. Looks really neat. Really cool. Okay, well I guess we'll probably have to involve the internet to get any history. Here we go. Let's see. Byzantine rule, Dark Age period. We got King Charles here. Knights of Saint John of Jerusalem. Great naval base. 3 cities. Wow, the entire population of Malta was carried off by the Turks in 1551. The entire population of Gazo turned them into slaves. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, I'm not seeing any reference to a falcon here. So there you go. Interesting. Wow. So, yeah. Anybody know anything about Malta and the Maltese falcon and all that, King Charles and all that? Yeah. Because I didn't. Coffee's gone. There you go. Coffee's gone. That means the day should be looking up from here, right? Yesterday, after I did that whole bummed out because my show got cut short early, hung out with my wife, of course, and then I didn't get. I went out and I went and did a little bit of work, and then that's right. I came home and ate and passed out, and then got up and did absolutely nothing last night. Just was a complete vegetable. And man, did it feel great. Sometimes it's really hard to detach from pain, you know. And lately it's just been a couple of hours of sleep. And then that's all I can stand because anymore, and I just get stiff and just the pain is just too much. I can't move. I feel like Frankenstein. I am the monster, Frankenstein's monster. Yeah, totally. I don't know. Is my camera good? I think my camera's good. Maybe I'll tilt it up a little bit at some point to give me some more picture of what's going on the shelves up here. Well, you can just see, I think, my lava lamp having a ball over there. Totally. Oh, well. We're going on 2 hours here. And I'm not sure if there's any point in going on any further this morning. Of course, I can keep talking. That's what I do. Hablador, as my wife calls me, the talker, blah, 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 blah. Watch the movie. Shut up. Let the movie do the talking. You got to talk about everything. Because I've been quiet for so many decades, I need to get it out. I really do just need to get it out. Uncork, unbottle, pour it out, pour it all over, shake it up really good, and just, that's what I'm doing. Oh, a good stretch. I don't get enough good stretches in the morning. That's a good stretch. Yeah, I just escaped there, and I don't remember where I was at. Wow. I completely lost my train of thought. Not that it was important. But yeah, I can talk. Yeah, that's what it was. It was Tom from the Tommy Tom Show. When I first met him and kind of told him what I'm doing with this morning thing, he said, I told him I'm just trying to get out of this all this shit out of my head, and he said, die empty, right? Die empty. And I thought that was such a great phrase, that's what I'm trying to do. Every day, as far as I can, I try to get something out of me and record it, right? And with this show here, I can do that on a daily basis, 4 days a week. I can get on here and I can just unbottle, right? Tell those stories that I want to live on, right? They may not mean much to most, but I'm hoping that they're going to mean something to someone at some point, because it means a lot to me to share the crap that I've gone through, to share my life, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. Because for me, it's been one hell of a ride. It's been, a lot of it's been, mundane and boring and day-to-day crap. But there have been these huge chunks of my life that have just been bizarre, just out there, just weird shit going on, right? Heavy shit. So I just want to kind of share those times, and while the trip to Northern California, the 2 trips up, with Mike and Steve, they probably don't mean much to anyone, but to me, there were some great learning experiences, and they proved to me that I can get along with people who don't necessarily want to get along with me, right? And since then I've had to use those experiences there, especially with Steve and his family especially, to help me to keep jobs, and to get along with people that, I wouldn't normally go out of my way to be even become acquaintances with, let alone, work partners, and I'm hard enough to get along with because I'm just so weird and different that, I don't blame anyone for not being able to get me, to understand me, or to at least just accept me. I mean, rarely will I meet someone who is accepting, right? Everybody, most of the people that I'm not going to say everybody, but most of the people that I come in contact with are, first and foremost, judgmental. As soon as they see you, you can look and see in their eyes, no matter how much you smile at them, you can see in their eyes as they look you up and down, and see that they have no respect for you because you're not like them. You're not a you know a perfect copy of what they think to be as the perfect person. And usually they're snobbish and greedy. So of course they see me as some kind of bug, right, to be stepped on. And I'm fine. I'm fine. I've had to deal with human excrement, um, touting themselves as actual humans. I've had to deal with that since I was a little kid. Judgmental pricks who think because you don't look like their perfect little children, you're a monster, right? So whatever, you know, um, you know, people who judge me especially will think, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for his family. I feel sorry for his wife and daughter. And I've actually gotten that from so-called friends on Facebook, where because of some offhanded, off-color comment that's weird that I might make about something and they don't get, they instantly judge me. And I've had people, females, because I said something that was offensive to them. They took offense to something that I may have said, and I was unintentionally offensive. Um, Yet they snapped to judge me and told me, blatantly that they feel sorry for my wife and daughter because of the kind of man that I am. And I could instantly say honestly that they know nothing about me. If they can snap judgment like that because of some stupid little thing I said on Facebook, then they have no fucking clue, which tells me more about them, right? So, yeah, I find that hilarious that people make these snap judgments. It happens all the time, because all they see is one little tiny little pigeonhole of you, and that's where they keep you, you know. And that's happened with family and friends throughout my whole life. I've been pigeonholed. He's that guy. This is how he's going to respond to this. Look, see, I told you, that's how it's on. Even though I'm over here, but they still got me here. You see, he's right here. This is how I told you, but I'm not there. You see me as that, but I'm over here. You're not getting it. You're not even trying to get me, right? And that's most of my friends and family. They don't get me. The people that know me, who um, who talk to me one on a semi-regular basis, even those people don't know me, but they know me more than family and friends do because they take the time. As much as I try to poke and prod, family and friends, hey, how you doing? Hey, remember me? Hey, you want to talk? No, um, they don't know me. They think they know me, and because they think they know me, they don't want to get to know me any further, right? At least that's the way I've got it figured out. Let's switch gears here. But no, what I've been doing lately is worrying about what's going on in my own head, what's been going on in my own life. Uh, I, I may seem like when I vent like this that I dwell on things, but I don't really. It's because I let things out and I express emotion that I don't have to carry baggage with me, and I don't have to feel guilty about things that have transpired, transgressions upon others. I don't, I don't carry that shit with me. I don't do baggage. I don't do emotional baggage. It's been the 90s since I've done guilt. I don't do guilt because I don't I just don't. You know, I've either done it and, I feel bad about it, or I haven't done it because I knew I would feel bad about it. And usually I don't do things because, since the 90s, because I know that I'm going to feel bad about having done it, whether I affected somebody else or it just badly affects my own soul and psyche, right? But so, I don't, I'm not one of those guys who's going to go out and apologize on a daily basis about stupid little things because I was told to apologize. You know, no, I had to learn for myself what an apology means, and it's something that you don't use all the time. When you don't use it all the time, it means a whole lot. It's a whole. If you get an apology from me, it means exactly what it's supposed to. It's not, oh yeah, it's the 18th time I've said sorry today. No, I don't do that. You know, um, when I go out into the world, I mean, there are people who, the stupidest little thing, you know, they come around the corner with the shopping cart, right? And they bump into me and it's like they want to apologize. And it's like, I get it, but I don't get it, you know. I don't get it. Of course, I'm the first to say, hey man, it's no big deal. It's all good. Ain't no thing, nobody hurt, you know. But I'm sorry. I mean, what are you supposed to say? It just seems like it's so overused that it doesn't have the same meaning anymore. So when somebody really needs to say they're sorry, it's like, yeah, I heard it before. You say that all the time, every day, you know. Sorry, sorry, sorry. You know, just pay attention. Don't keep doing shit that you have to apologize for. You know, don't don't step on people's fucking feelings and toes and lives. Don't constantly interrupt people when they're talking. Let them sentence, let them finish a thought. And then you don't have to apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, I have cut you off. Get out of your own fucking world, get out of your own head, think about those around you. That's all you gotta do. Be aware, be courteous. The world is so lacking that. We hand that down to our kids. Our kids are going out there and they're magnifying this lack of respect, 100 times fold, right? So um, I would hope that I have, instilled in my daughter the um, the ability to not have to go out in the world and apologize for everything that she does, right? She should be unapologetic in her life as well, because she's not going to be doing things that she has to apologize for, all right? And that's what unapologetically living my life means, is that I'm not stepping on people. If this hurts your feelings, let me know. I'm not going to stop saying the things that I'm saying because it hurts your feelings. All right. You have to grow up and learn that other people feel and live their lives differently. Like somebody on Facebook was all upset because they drove down the street and they saw a house that offended their eyes, literally. All right. Is this thing allowed? What are the building codes? These colors and the front of this building. I don't like this, right? And my response was, let's see, what the hell was my response? My response was very matter of fact, right? Um, I'm not understanding what the issue is. You don't like someone else's house, so you're trying to get a mob together to have it removed? Townspeople carrying torches and pitchforks, or maybe we'll pass around a petition to have it changed or removed. Or we could picket up and down their street, proclaiming our dislike for something that doesn't even belong to us. All right. Why not just accept the fact that everybody's tastes are differently and move on? Grow up, people. Just grow up, right? Um, we're not all the same. We're all different. That's what makes us great, you know. Um, a diverse planet. All right. Um, we don't all have to marry the same race. We don't have to marry our freaking cousins. All right. We don't have to marry from within our own town or our own country anymore. All right. This planet is and should be a conglomeration of everyone's genes, right? That's what humanity is. All right, growing. All right. Now we need to do it wisely. I don't want everybody to, all right, well, my religion says, or my culture says that I have to go out and pump out 80 fucking kids, to make my bloodline. No, 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 no. That's how we get entire regions of morons, and especially here in the U.S., but all over the planet. All right, because they're beholding to some kind of strict doctrine that says they have to have a million uneducated idiots running around, or a million educated idiots running around. It doesn't matter, one for one, people. There should be one to replace you and one to replace the person you're spousal with, right? But I don't subscribe to the fact, it's the idea that we need to be beholden to, one way of living or the other. Let it out, people. Let's get this planet moving. If it's that utopia, we need to come together as a species, all right? Not come together as consumers, right? Blind consumers, blind patriots, blind consumers, beholden to religions and politics and financial institutions and corporations. That's no way to live your life, being a slave to all of this shit. Yeah, be religious, be spiritual, but do it on your own terms. Don't do it for a bureaucratic entity, which is all that these things become. When we took the Little House in the Prairie style church out of our communities and turned them into these great monster corporations with with no oversight, then we took the community out of life. What happened to, why can't we still have those days where the town doctors and the town religious figures and the town politicians and the sheriffs and all of these people would spend their evenings with other families, would come home with us for Sunday dinner, right? So we kind of lost touch with each other. There's no block parties anymore. There's no town gatherings where everybody in town shows up. We just don't do that anymore, And my computer keeps going through some kind of weird, flickery thing. I don't know what its trip is. I'm hoping it's not going to decide to reboot or some shit, because I hate it when that happens. Let me just check my programs here. Security actions. All right. Well, hopefully I'm going to be good to go live here for another hour or so, or however long I can manage. Yeah. But I think that America needs a resurgence of community, and not for the sake of any one particular reason. I think just for the sake of community, we need to have more group gatherings, right? more block parties where this part of the neighborhood gets together, and maybe others from around town come over and hang out. But for the most part, all of these neighbors are going to get to know each other, right? And I think that if we did this like on a huge scale, right, where different factions of the community would have gatherings, and then at some point, once or twice a year, all of these like little factions of gathering people would get together in one place in town, the community park, the community center, whatever, and have kind of a huge interaction, the exchange of ideas and stuff. I think that would be the jumping off point for like trying to help take care of the less unfortunate in town, help planting trees, help designing a better community. That would be the place to do it, to get people together. At some point a few years back, we tried to do something like that here, in our little piece of the world. We have a little mobile home park community thing, and so at one point we were trying to do a monthly potluck gathering, where we'd all get together and bring a little food, and we could sit around and barbecue and hang out. And it worked out a few times, and then everybody's personal lives kind of just interfered, and it just kind of faded away, right? And we kind of used to have an unofficial mayor in our little mobile home community here, and he kind of moved on from that. And that was kind of a bummer. That was really depressing for me, because I was really into the idea of forming some kind of bond and relationship with my fellow neighbors, and kind of helping build our little community up, and hopefully be a model for the other little neighborhoods and mobile home communities in the area, right? Get together and fix things up together, and decide between us what we wanted the management to work on, right? And I'm going to have to put on that hat again at some point, because we're not allowed to have mail here, and so therefore we have to pay hundreds of dollars a year to get a P.O. box in town, when we could just get our mail delivered here. But because of the stipulation that, if you have overnight camping in one of these places, and we have old signage and old yellow page stuff that says that we have overnighting here, and we don't. We never have overnighters. Every once in a while we get a short-term resident, but they'll stay for a month or longer. So we need to have the signage changed and have mailboxes installed, so that we can get our freaking mail here and not have to pay hundreds of dollars a year to the post office. So I'm going to have to put on the community hat guy, and go out and try to get people together, and figure this out. And it'll cost hundreds of dollars to get mailboxes installed, but I'm willing to go that route if I can get others involved. And rather than pay hundreds of dollars again this year, pay a small fee and help me get mailboxes installed here, so that we can get our mail here at home. That would be fantastic. That would be awesome. To other people who don't have to worry about this. You don't know what it's like. That's just an extra bill every year. And the bummer about having to go into town, on a daily, or every couple of days, go into town and check your mail. It sucks. I rarely growing up had it where I could go out and check the mail because we were always transient, moving around, and then even through most of my adult life, But there were times when I could go check my mail, and see the mail guy come or see my flag drop down, you know, and I miss that. Hey, look, there's the mailman, and hurry out and talk to the mail person, the mail carrier. Um, yeah, I miss those days. And I long for the days. I yearn for the days of the past when, you know, you could see the town constable, the sheriff, or the deputy, or whoever, out and say, hey, we're having a block party. Be sure to show up. You know, one of the local firemen or ambulance drivers, or somebody who works down at the market, somebody that you see on a regular basis, say, hey, you just live right near us, why don't you stop by? you know um, uh, you know we need more of that. I mean, people go home, and the more and more I see out here, these tall walls and fences and stuff around most places now. Maybe that's just common to the desert, but I don't think so. I think that it's common now because houses are built so close together, especially, down in the city, that there are just these taller and taller walls between us, and we come home and we go behind these walls and we hide from everybody. We might wave at our neighbors, but we don't know their names. We don't talk to them anymore. We don't, trade thoughts and ideas and sugar and stuff like that. I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore. At least I don't see it. You know, I see it a lot wherever we're at because of my wife. She's very communal, right? And she'll go out and she'll know the neighbors by name. And these aren't people that go out of their way to get to know her. She goes out of her way to get to know them. And I try to take a page from her book in meeting people and trying to forge a communal relationship with people, because I see that this country really needs that. It really needs more one-on-one and less my group against your group kind of mentality. And that's the way it turns out. I mean, this town is divided right now between the locals and the out-of-towners and Airbnbers, and it's just, and the tourists, and there are fewer and fewer locals in town now because more and more of the dwellings, the houses, are vacation rentals, right? So we're totally out of balance, out of whack, and I think that it would be beneficial for everyone to have more interactions, even though some of these places where I go to clean, they have neighbors, and some of the neighbors are the most righteous people you ever want to know. And then you go to another house and every one of those neighbors just fucking sucks because they hate you because you clean a vacation rental, and they hate vacation rentals. So they only see you as a part of the problem, right? They don't see you as a part of the community, even though you live right up the fucking street. They see you as some asshole that has to bring these strangers into town, and I'm just some asshole who's trying to make a living cleaning houses for people who are just trying to make a living renting houses, right? And it just, it always turns up to be politics, my ideals against your ideals, and it doesn't have to be that. When there's a sense of community, we can get together and discuss things and learn about likes and dislikes and problems and issues and come to a fucking conclusion and solve shit. Instead, you want to scream up and down and call a cop, or scream up and down and call a lawyer, or scream up and down and take it to your senator and have shit. I mean, come on, just put down your fucking walls and talk to people. And that's what I am really trying to do now. Can you not tell? Hello? There are like no fucking walls here, you know. So I hope that that I can, you know, be some kind of example, to someone, that it's okay to just say, hey, this is me. Who are you? You know, nice to meet you. You know, let's get to know each other more. Hey, oops, we're not exactly alike, but that's okay. I don't have to hate you for it. You don't have to hate me because we're different. You know, so you're straight as they come, and you're ultra, religious and political. Well, I'm not. I'm kind of the other end of the spectrum, but I've always considered myself middle of the road. I try not to make judgments one way or the other. I try to kind of accept things for as they are and just understand them, rather than say, oh, fuck that, I don't want to deal with that. So, come hang out, and let's share our differences. We don't have to be the same. That's what makes this such a great world, is that we're all fucking different. And I've known a lot of different people throughout my existence on this planet, and I want to get to know more. If it gets a little too weird for one side or the other, or both of us, well then, we change the channel. We go our separate ways. And I'm cool with that too. I've my whole life I've understood that I'm not anyone's cup of tea. Very seldom do I come across someone who actually kind of halfway gets me, if any. And most of the time it was back when I was younger, and there were open-minded people. When we were younger, we were so carefree and open-minded, and we could accept a lot more than we can now, because now we've been forced into this Play-Doh fun factory, jammed in there and cranked out, and we have to be this thing now. We cannot be anything else but other than this one thing, because if we deviate from that, we're going to be seen as something other than what we have to be seen as to be, this person, in order to gain these things out of life. And if people see me as that, then my life is over. I'm screwed. I have to be this guy. Don't ever look back at my past, because grandpa can't be seen as anything other than that beer drinking, couch sitting fisherman, and that's it. And that's grandpa. And you can't look at grandpa's past and wonder, what was grandpa like when he was my age? Don't ask him. You don't want to talk about it. Is he ashamed of what he? Don't ask him. Don't talk. You don't want to talk about it. Well, what about when he was in war? Don't ask him. They don't want to talk about. He don't like to talk about war. Did he do something that gives him nightmares? Was he a drug addict back in the 80s? Did he rape and pillage and storm the castle? I mean, what the hell? Why can't we talk about grandpa's past? Well, I'm a father, and eventually maybe a grandfather. I'll talk about my past. I'll have to use first names only when talking about people involved in my past, because most of the people from my past have moved on, and they refuse to acknowledge the fact that they were anything other than the perfect grandparents they are now, right? I never made a mistake in my life. I'm perfect. Yeah, right. And if you buy that, I really, really want to sell you a bridge. Totally. So I'm getting hungry this morning. I picked up fixins for breakfast sandwiches. Really nice sesame seed hamburger buns, really nice big ones. Like the ultimate breakfast sandwich type things from Jack in the Box, right? We've been doing the croissants, the big croissant sandwiches. And I thought, all right, it's time for a change up. So I got some thin shaved ham, maybe a little Swiss or Munster, some mayo, an egg, um, and that's a good breakfast sandwich. So I'll probably be doing that this morning. If I get a chance, I'll Facebook a photo. So those of you who know me can stop by on Facebook and see photos of what goes on here in this room. Um, I'm real excited about the Mitch Rowland show a week from today, from tonight, a week from tonight. So whoever's going, get ready. It's going to be great. Pappy and Harriet's 20 minutes up the road, and we're there. And it's been so awesome the few times that I've been. I just cannot wait. I'm hoping to get a chair this time. I saw a few other invalids, old crusty people like me, who got chairs, maybe because they requested them. So I'm hoping if I request a chair, I can get a place to sit. And there's a great place to the right of the stage. It's close to the door, so it gets a little chilly. You keep a nice big thick curtain down. But hopefully I can get a chair. I'll take my cane and try to elicit some sympathy, and get a place to sit, which will mean I'll have a lap and my wife will have a place to sit. I don't expect that I'll be sitting the whole time, but his music is really, hypnotic and relaxed. So I don't expect that I'll need to be standing up, banging my head, and tweaking my neck more. But man, I can't wait. I can't wait. I've enjoyed this guy's guitar playing since as far back as I've been listening to Harry Styles' 3 albums. So I think he was on the first album. But I mean, just fantastic stuff. Maybe he wasn't. But his solo album is just awesome. And I'll have to post a picture of that on Facebook. Eventually, when I upgrade phone and computer, I'll be on Instagram and perhaps TikTok as well. I don't know, these weird platforms. I try not to get too futuristic, because I just cannot. I mean, sitting here with the computer editing video and dealing with YouTube and Facebook is really about as fast as I want to go technologically. And even then, I'm constantly running into, roadblocks. And it's my own hubris that holds me up. I don't want to be in the future world, so I'm always holding back and fight the future, fight change. Fucking screwball, huh? What are you gonna do? I've been really run down lately because I hold such weird hours. It's hard for me to get to sleep early because I'm not an early bed person. So I wind up getting to sleep between 10 and 12. And then I'm up here at, I get up at 4 to be here at 5. But I mean, most nights I'm getting to sleep closer to midnight or 1 in the morning, right? And then I sleep so poorly that I'm up every hour to take a leak and to try to get back to sleep. And then the insomnia is like, hey, you really don't want to be asleep, so get the fuck up. And I'm like, no, man, no, let me sleep. No, let me sleep, man. And so I fight with it and go back to sleep. Sometimes I fight with it so badly after this, happens, that I'll eat breakfast and contemplate just crawling in bed for a couple of hours and trying to, get that couple of hours that I missed out on. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. The last couple of weeks, every couple of days, I've just been whoosh. I'll just crash in the afternoon or in the morning, and I'm just gone, right? And last night was no exception. I passed out around 3-ish or 2 or 3 or something. I don't even remember. It was pretty early. It was after work and after the store, and then after some lunch. And I laid down to watch some TV, and I was out, put on a movie, and I was gone. And then I got up to take a leak, changed to another movie and hit the timer, and laid in bed and passed right the frick back out again, right? And and then I meant to get up at about 5 or 6 and eat some dinner. And I got up at 6, took a leak, scratched my head, asked the wife if I had eaten, and crawled right back into bed and didn't get up until 8 or so, which is when I finally had a burrito. And then, of course, I'm up eating, so I got to stay up and digest, and I can't just crawl back into bed and go to sleep. That's no bueno. So I find myself up until midnight, 1 a.m. again, which, last night was no exception. Not much sleep last night. But it goes in cycles with me. I'll get 3, 4, 5 hours sleep a night, every night, and then less and less and less, depending on what projects or what things I'm working on. And then I hit a point to where I just crash. I just go down and I'm out. It's like taking Thorazine and you're just out for 18 hours. Well, it's like that. I'll be out for 8 hours. And that's a normal 8 to 10 hours sleep is a normal night's sleep for my wife or daughter or anybody else, I guess. But for me, 4, 5 hours sleep max is a normal night for me since I was a little kid. Maybe that's why I've lost my hair, at an early age. Maybe insomnia. There's a correlation there. Insomnia. Oh, pardon my yawn. Insomnia, depression, and lack of sleep. Is there a cycle? Is it genetic? Does it have to do with my, now when I don't smoke marijuana, I get so little sleep, it's criminal. All right. And it's been that way since I was a little kid. When I was a little bitty kid, I would not get any sleep, no sleep, no sleep, no sleep, and then I'd crash, and then no sleep, no sleep, and then I crashed on up into my teens, right? And it was always no sleep, and then I'd crash. And then I started smoking marijuana about 15 or 16, and then I started to sleep at nights. I was less nervous, less anxious, less stressed out about shit. I didn't worry all of the time about life, about where food was coming from, whether I was going to have clean clothes, whether we were going to have to pick up and move, where I was going to sleep, all of these things, constantly coming at me. And I didn't worry as much. And I'd smoke a little bit, and then it would just ease my whole 24-hour period, and that's when my life changed and where I would sleep more. And then there was a great 10 or 15, maybe 20-year period of my life where when I was smoking marijuana, I was getting more like regular sleep. I was getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep, depending on what kind of extraneous activities I was doing during the day. Right, the more I physically demanded of my body, the better I would sleep if I had marijuana to ease my brain, right, and then later ease physical pain. And it's still like that today, So is that going to change? No, it's in some form or another. I'm going to keep marijuana in my life, even if I have to go stop smoking and just go to the edible situation, because it is a form of medication. It helps with depression, anxiety, stress. It allows me to eat. My stomach got so screwed up on pills for 18 months that it just destroyed my digestion, period. So it helps me to eat, helps me to relax, to sleep, to do so many things, to interact with people socially. It helps me to deal with anger and frustration And yeah, so I mean, it's like an all-around fix-all, like aspirin. So it'll always be in my life in some form of another, right? Wow. I told you I could keep talking. I wish I had more coffee, but I think it's gonna just have to be breakfast here in about 20 minutes or so. It's 7:38 in the a.m. On February 20th, 2024. This is a Tuesday. It is winter, and it is kind of cloudy outside. We're supposed to get a little bit of rain. We had a beautiful sunset. The sky was orange and pink. I wish I could get more cameras here. I would have a sunrise cam, and I would have the sunrise down in one. I help. I need help. Um, I'm a technological misfit. Sounds like the trash man is here. Yep. Um, that's such a human sound, the trash man. I mean, because that's what we're all about. Humans nowadays, we're all about trash. We're all about waste, right? I mean, everything that we do involves some form of waste. All day, every day, all we produce is waste, and that the sound of the trash man picking up those big boxes and shaking out all of that garbage and eating it up and then taking it out and then packing it down into the earth, you know, that's humanity right there. So when I hear this garbage truck every morning or every other, twice a week, and then it drives right by my window here, um, yeah, it makes me think of the planet and what we've done to it and where we are. Um, we're just consumers. We're waste producing consumers at this point on the planet. And it sucks because people don't recognize it. They don't see themselves as that. I go to people's houses and ask if they recycle. And I'm not making a judgment call. I'm just wondering, hey, where do I put this? But at the same time, I wonder, well, why doesn't everybody recycle? Even if it's a glass bottle, I mean, sometimes we'll have glass bottles sitting around for a year before we'll have enough of them to consider taking them in and dropping them off. Or my wife will just say, you know what, just put those over here and I'll take them and get rid of them, you know, and, and she doesn't take them to get the money out of the bottle. She just takes them because we don't want them to wind up in the landfill. Here comes the trash truck. It's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, right? There goes the trash truck, boys and girls. Wave to the trash truck. Wave to the man on the back. Totally, man. Well, this is a crazy old weird bearded guy's neighborhood here, and we have a diverse community here. We used to have a lot of tweakers, honestly. We had a lot of tweakers in this community, this little mobile home community here. It was run riot with tweakers, mate. Um, and for one reason or another, they've been kind of phased out. Usually they do it to themselves. They don't pay rent or they don't keep up their property and they get the boot, and that's pretty much how it's gone with most of the uh, the tweakers, and I'll just say tweakers. Um, and you know what I mean. I don't mind poor people, right? People that are struggling because aren't we all, right? The recently homeless, all right. We get a lot of those. We get a people who have come out of bad situations and are coming here because they got to start from the bottom and work their way up. And this is just above the bottom, you know, one of these little mobile home communities out here in the middle of nowhere, in the desert, where it's really cheap, where nobody wants to live. Um, so there's a lot of jobs out here, people. There's not many places to live, but there are a lot of jobs, mainly in the vacation service stuff, vacation rental cleaning, a lot of that. Um, Food, the food industry, entertainment, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of that kind of work going on out here. Because for some reason, every weekend there's just this huge influx of tourists from all around the world who want to come to Joshua Tree, and see these funny little crooked trees. All right, I don't know what the significance about them is. You know, I'm I'm sure there's something about them that brings people out here. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't claim to get it. Um, but there it is. So there's a lot of work out here. Enough work that you don't really have to um, stay in the box. You know, you can you can do a little bit of house cleaning here at a vacation rental, do some nighttime work here at a bar, a club, or a restaurant. Maybe do some food delivery here, a little Uber, taxi driving. I mean, you don't have to stay with one thing when you live out in a place like this, because there isn't necessarily one thing that you can stick with. So you kind of spread yourself out and say, okay, well, I'm going to do a little of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of this. And you don't have to work 8 hours a day every day doing one thing, which a lot of people get into. I did that um, growing up and through most of my adult life, and I fucking hated it. Well, you don't get a 401k with that, and you don't get all of this retirement program. Well, fuck that. Like, you're going to get much with wherever you work. You work 20 years, 30 years from someplace, and you're really going to get bubkiss unless you're taking care of it for yourself. And if you're only taking care of it for yourself, you know, then I can put into a 401k if I want. I can put into a retirement savings plan if I want, and am. So, there's no difference. The only difference is that I am not beholden to one job for 20 or 30 years. I'm beholden to myself getting out and making it happen with wherever and however I want to do it. If I want to change it up, then I'll get back into handyman stuff, load some tools into my van, and go out and do some fucking house painting or remodeling, or some plumbing work, to fuck, you know. I'm not beholden to one thing or one entity, you know, for my life, and that's the way I do it, you know. It's the way, it works for me. Other people are into that one thing, you know, for their whole lives. I cannot do that. I tried that. A couple of years, 3 years, I think is like the longest I went in one job, working in plastics, or painting. I couldn't stay with one company, um, painting or in plastics, because I get burned out on people, and I get burned out of having to be a certain person for people, right? So I got to move on. It's like, all right, I'm sick of hearing this guy's shit, and I'm sure he's sick of hearing my shit. I'm just, it's best if I move on. Um, you know, and I've gotten the hint before from places I've worked. Hey, it's best you move on. Okay, adios. And I don't try to ever take it personally, because I understand that not everybody is my cup of tea, and I am nobody's cup of tea, right? So, yeah. Tangy cookie burger. Ooh, oh, tangy, tangy, tangy cookie burger. Let's take a little bit of that out and throw it down. Do a couple of hits of that, and then probably go get some breakfast cooking, because it's getting late enough. I might have company. My wife might be waking up. Have some breakfast together. Watch a little old TV. Right now, we're watching a lot of Northern Exposure in the day, and Barnaby Jones at night. And Lee Merriweather, who plays Betty Jones on Barnaby Jones, she just got her hair cut. And I'm wondering, how long is it going to last before people are writing in to say, why did she change her hair? Put her hair back the way it was, and make her wear that thing over her hair that she wears until it grows back. Because America was like that. Um, They do not like change back in the 70s and 80s, and your TV shows had to be the same shit every week. Um, or people would be like, "What happened to what's his face? Why is he doing this?" You know, it was okay from season to season if there were some changes, but from week to week, we could not take change in America. Our TV shows had to be the same, right? Every week. Uh, Example, Three's Company, all right? That theme, while it changed slightly in its tempo or whatever, the theme was always the same. The opening was the same. It was just changed to fit whatever cast, right? Even when they changed from the Ropers to Mr. Furley, right? Three's Company remained Three's Company, and the premise of Three's Company was set up upon a misunderstanding, and that was every single episode was something was misunderstood, and here's our reaction to how we misunderstood what happened. What that didn't really happen, it happened that way, but everybody thinks it happened this way. So this is our reaction. Every single episode was like that because we couldn't stand change, right? Mr. Furley or Mr. Roper had to do the same funny face in every episode, right? Um, Jack Tripper had to fall and do some kind of pratfall. He had to do a Chevy Chase in every episode. Um, uh, yeah, John Ritter was a fantastic actor and physical comedian. He's one of my favorite all-time, um, not just TV actors, but just actors in general. It's a shame that he didn't get to do more movies than he did, um, being other than that funny slapstick guy. But he did that so well that it was okay. Uh, there was a movie that he did with James Belushi, um, and he was just an average, everyday guy. I think he was a school teacher, a salesman, or something, and he was convinced into believing that he was um, a U.S. spy because somebody who looked just like him was a spy, and they needed him to go deliver something to the aliens, and they would only talk to this one guy. And because he was a spitting image of this guy, they convinced him that he was this guy, and set him out to do this, guided by James Belushi and his weird comedy. Uh, and Something Men. Uh, what the hell was that movie? Something Men. Um, anyway, it was a fantastic movie, and he did a few movies through the '80s that were just really, really, uh, really John Ritter movies, right? I think the only movie that I got to see him in where he didn't do the John Ritter thing so much that he was actually able to become somebody else was when he had that supporting role in Sling Blade, right? And that character, that was a great, great character um, portrayed by John Ritter in that, right? But back in the '70s and '80s, with TV, we didn't want change week to week, episode to episode. Even some shows, season to season, it had to be those characters could not change, right? Even John Gage and Roy DeSoto on Emergency 51, they they couldn't grow too much. They were always out doing things, just like Ponch and John on Chips. Same premise. They were always out doing something to become something better than they were, but they never changed. They were always those same guys. In fact, they would just be they would just become more of those, you know, characters, those one tunnel vision characters, They would just be more of that, you know. Um, but yeah, America didn't like change. Now everything is about change. Every episode in the '90s that happened, where every episode had to be different. Where'd my glass screen go? And it got to that point. I notice it now watching Northern Exposure, a show that started in like '89, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and went in halfway through the '90s. And that show was a real change, uh, and every single week on that show, something bizarre and different is taking place, and the characters take all of these different changes and twists and turns and stuff, and you see not just growth in every character, but just drastic changes, right? In the show, there's the K Bear radio station, 50 AM 57, and there's the character Chris in the Morning, um, played by John Corbett, right? Um, who did the My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and let's say Sex in the City, right? So John Corbett, he he does this Chris in the Morning character, right? And all day long he's on the radio, and that's his job. He's on the radio from in the morning until sign off at night, and he's Chris in the Morning all day long. And every single episode, he changes. He's into something different. He's really eclectic and unusual and offbeat, and he reads weird captions from books and excerpts. And he'll read entire books on the air, and it's just that show right there. Um, and those really weird, some characters, they're never different, and other characters, they every episode they're different, you know. And the '90s is when TV decided, okay, we don't have to be, every episode doesn't have to fit into that box. This box can take you all kinds of other places. And you really saw a huge change in TV, especially in the sitcoms and in the hour dramas. Uh, all of a sudden we're all over the place. Of course, you get shows like NYPD Blue, which was just like an extension of Hill Street Blues, right? And it was, while it was a different type of show and it was taking characters all into weird places, it was still, it was a recipe show. You know, you had to have a murder, you had to have a bad guy, you had to have a guy chasing a bad guy. It's a cop show. So you get set into that, that track, slot car racing. And you get all these slot cars on TV, and they're all racing in their slots, and they really can't escape the slots. And then cable came about, more and more and more and more. Cable was just saying, let's do something different. And then TV, the prime three channels had to start doing different stuff, and then you get Fox and KCOP, that became UPN, United Paramount Network, right? And you get all of these different syndicated TV channels that are now filling up the empty spots, 9 and out here in California, Southern California, they would be like 6 and 9 and 11 and 13. Those are the oddball channels. 2, 4, and 7 were like the major international American network things, and then Channel 5 was local, and then 9 was local, and then then we get more and more local stuff, but more and more it was syndicated, like Fox, a lot of TMZ and UPN weird crap. But things really started to change at the end of the '80s. That by the '90s there was no more box. It was it was a window, and it was a window that you could pick up and, oh, okay, I want to go and point this window this way and see all of this stuff going on. And now I think it's gone back to being in a box, because everything comes at you so fast that it's just, you're just scrolling through a box and you put this on, and then it's not really, because there's so much content being thrown at you, it's not really an experience anymore. You don't go to the movies to have the movie experience. You're just watching something that some people made, and it's a thing. It doesn't take you anywhere. It's not a vehicle for taking you to another world or something. It's just a thing, right? And that's a bummer that entertainment has just become all about being entertained, and less about what's entertaining us, right? That sucks. It's gotten to where it's not so much being entertained as it's just killing time. Well, I got to kill some time, so I'm going to put this on. How do you kill time? Well, I kill time watching this mind-numbing reality show that has nothing to do with reality. But we're going to, suspend belief and think that people are actually like this and actually talk like this and do these things and interact with the world like that. Because it's bullshit. Everything is so over scripted and overproduced and over directed that, like the Dugars and 18 and counting, it's all so planned out. It's like, you didn't say that right. Come back in and do that again. Let's do that a couple of times, practice that, and then we'll shoot. All right. And that's not reality. Big Brother, Real World, all of that crap that, of course, Real World began in the late 80s, early 90s. That's the same kind of crap, where we suspend belief, once again, that that this is actually reality when we watch reality TV, and it's not. Not even stuff like Ninja Warrior and or American Gladiators, was real life. Battle of the Network Stars, that was more reality than any of the other reality shows since, right? Because you saw these people who did fake stuff all the time on TV, and that was fake. Now you saw them on a real level, right? It's like they're actually people. That's wow, Lou Wagner, not Lou Wagner, Ed Asner, right? From Lou. Ed Asner, he was one of those guys where he was so much himself when he was out on those shows. Or Christy McNichol. I think she was more of herself out there, even though they all had to put on that I'm on TV thing, it was still more real than any of the realest, reality shows since and now, because it's all bullshit. The Osbournes was all bullshit. Say that again, Ozzy. We couldn't understand you. So I don't buy into the idea that reality TV is real at all in any fashion. This is reality TV because this is live at any moment. A dog could come in, somebody could knock at the door, my house could fall into a fucking sinkhole. This is reality. Trash can goes by, trash man. And I say trash man because they're trash men. I see them. I know they're men. Hey, somebody's awake, and it's time for breakfast. So, yeah, I'm going to sign off so that I can make those breakfast sandwiches. And Sammy, come here, Sammy. Come here. Come here. Come here. Say good morning, Sam, so I can say goodbye. Rawr. Hi, bud. How's it going? How are you doing? Come here. Come on. Come here. Come on. Come on. There you go. Come say good morning. Huh? Hi. Kiss. How you doing, buddy? I'm glad to see that you had good sleep last night. Oh, you're such a sweetheart. It's early, huh? I know you like to sleep about 15 hours a day. You're such a good boy. Can I get a beso? Can I get dame beso? Can I get a beso? Give me a kiss and I'll put you down. Dame beso. Dame beso. Oh, thank you. Good boy. All right. Well, Sam, you ready for a little piece of ham? I think it's time to make some breakfast sandwiches. All right. Well, let me get up, pop my sign in there so I can say goodbye for the day. Good morning, weirdos. Have a fantastic day. And I will see you tomorrow, Wednesday morning. And I think we are going to be playing some suspense. All right. I'll see what I can dig up. And I will see you tomorrow live at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, people? All right. Y'all take care. Adios, weirdos.